going to be discussing the power of the pivot. And before we get started here, I kind of just want to point something out. We had a lot of energy this morning from the women's breakfast. And, we talked a lot about how we like to show up for each other. And just looking out here today, it is insane to me how many of you have showed up for this panel. It just, honestly, it strikes me every single time.
That's a goal.
So from the bottom of my Canadian heart that is winning 5-0, I thank you very, very much.
No one's keeping track.
No, exactly. All right. Yes, there are some seats up front if anybody does not have a seat. We don't want to pick on you too much, but exactly, lots of free swag. Okay. So here today we're wanting to talk about, the power of what we're calling the pivot, right? I think it's something that a lot of us have gone throughout our career. But before we dive too deep, I really wanted to kind of ask everybody, what do you think is an early career pivot you have experienced? And can you kind of give like a 60-second journey of what that spotlight looks like? Good luck to you. We'll start with Nikki.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikki Sun. I've been working in front and behind the camera for about 15 plus years. I think starting right out of college, I realized when my story ended up on CNN National Headline News, I was a student and it told me and taught me that I didn't have to be a certain age to affect change. So I really decided if I'm going to be in media, I'm just a kid out of college. I don't think any 3-letter acronym news station is going to hire me. So what did I do? I started my own independent YouTube channel. I interviewed my own peers, marginalized communities. I always am huge on amplifying women and creators of color. And being able to do that and create my own hosting reel, I learned how to edit, I learned how to shoot, and that has led me to where I am today. But I think really what it was is going from an independent creator, and that mindset has allowed me to branch out and do everything that I've done in the last 15 years at these shows.
No, that's fantastic. I'd like to just move right on over, I think, to you. I will go last today.
All right. I'm Amy DeLuise. I run a multi-platform production company, DeLuise Enterprises, and I'm also the founder of Gals and Gear. This is our 11th year, so yay, #Gals and Gear. Thank you all. So I guess one of the early career pivots that I had, I got an early start in the location department of feature films that we're shooting in Washington, D.C., my hometown, what I like to call the permits and porta potties portion of my career. And I quickly migrated into the art department where I started doing archival research. Back in the day when you could not just Google everything, you actually had to physically know how to go into the archives and the Library of Congress and stuff. And I worked on a little movie called Forrest Gump. And I was there with the ILM guys with one of the very early digital cameras capturing, crowds of people that we kept moving around the reflecting pool, the famous reflecting pool. And it was an incredible pivotal moment because it was really my film school to learn from some of these amazing people, looking for shots of Richard Nixon shaking hands with people the height of Tom Hanks and having them try to mat it in, early days. But what it taught me was, number one, I loved the intersection of technology and storytelling. And number two, I was much more fascinated with the real people and all the archives that I was digging through. And so I ended up pivoting and becoming a producer who worked with nonfiction storytelling, which is where I've lived for the rest of my career.
Oh, amazing.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to follow that. But anyway, I'm Cheryl Ottenritter. I'm also from DC. And I have had many pivots in my career, but early on, I was a composer and a musician. And then suddenly somebody offered me this job. And it was assisting 9 engineers in the studio in the post facility. And I thought, wow, I'm not doing that. I'm a composer. And then I realized, wait. Take this opportunity, go with it. If you like it, yay. If you don't, you can always go back to doing what you were doing. And so I learned always follow the opportunity and always be prepared for it. And I think that's something that really has stuck with me throughout my 20 plus year career in what I do. I'm a sound designer, mixer, and I specialize in immersive experiences.
And she runs Odd House Audio, which you should immediately hire for your next immersive or sound mix experience.
Wow.
Thank you, Amy.
Those are some pretty powerful pivots. You know, part of me was thinking in the back of my brain, maybe one of my biggest pivots was having to grow up. You know, like, and realize that I'm going to have to do things for myself in life. But I'm glad you guys have some amazing stories. Yeah, well, we'll start to move on here. All right. You know, in the world, a pivot doesn't always mean, you know, it's a change and it can impact what you make of it. You know, what skill or strength do you think throughout your career was a pivot that actually surprised you most about yourself? And where are you now on the other side of it? Who wants to start?
Rookie.
Nikki.
Looking at you.
Always Nikki.
Wow. Okay. Well, crazy pivot that I didn't choose, but happened to me is I got in a near-death experience last year. It's my 1-year anniversary of surviving a car crash. I broke my foot, so I have 6 metal plates in my foot. I'm part robot. Beat that AI. And it really just put me in a place where I couldn't work for 8 months, but I can do so much more. I am a video shooter, I'm an editor, so how do I bounce back, but still give myself grace and time to heal and process everything that has happened? The first thing, I'm always grateful. I have so much gratitude to be alive. Second was like, how do I get back in the world? Because I can't just be immobile for 8 months, which I was immobile. I learned how to rig up my wheelchair into the coolest dolly. So I actually put the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 on a small rig, put it on my wheelchair, and it was the most efficient, wonderful dolly. I was directing from my wheelchair, asking my husband to push me around, and he was getting really good at it. So I was like, pan in, pan out, you know, so I was able to do that. But what I really learned about this whole time of being immobile for 8 months and not working is like, you are enough. And I think for me is I never realized how resilient I was. And every time I feel like someone tries to tell you you can't do something or something happens to you, I just have to take it with a grain of salt, realize there's a lesson in here, pivot. And here I am. So I think for me is being able to go with the flow and go with the pivot and be okay with it instead of working against it. It can really lead you into some amazing places. And while I was in my immobility, that's when I reached out, or a company that I now work for full time in Seattle reached out to me, and they custom made me a role, just like they custom made me my PC. So it's like I didn't think I would be in the position that I am right now, running my own media business and also being the head of media production for a company that's in Seattle. But here I am, and you know, being in an accident was just one part of my story.
That's really scary. I mean, having a big change like that happen in your life, like, this is your work. This is what you do. You might have had a moment there where you're like, what am I going to do now? And it sounds like the industry was very well received and willing to adapt. And that's wonderful to see. So, yeah. Cheryl, you want to go?
Okay. What was the question again? No, just kidding.
I knew you were going to do that.
So I think one of the biggest pivots I did that I didn't anticipate in my career was when I left the safety and security of a post studio to start my own company. And I mainly did that because I became a mom, and working as much as I was working at the behest of other people became just non-viable for me. But I still love what I did, and I didn't want to give it up. So I decided just to do it on my own terms. So I created Odd House Audio, and along the way, it's given me the freedom to follow all sorts of different opportunities, like doing my first on-site immersive mix and doing these speaking engagements that I never would have thought that I would ever do. Like I've gotten to do some really crazy stuff that I look back at it and go, wow, that I never knew when I started my own company that is where I would be. So I would think that's, for me, that was the most pivotal of all of this. So yeah.
Oh, amazing.
So I would say that two things that I'm hearing, resilience and did not see that coming, are definitely themes in my pivot points. I've run a production company now for more than 30 years, but it's had several iterations. And one of the big pivots was in the span of a week, two big things happened. One was the first government shutdown. We've now had many, but at the time it was like, whoa. And my company had a big contract with the CDC for 6 figures. And then later that week, one of my employees came into my office with the front page of the Wall Street Journal, back when we read physical newspapers. And it was like a picture of our top client being led away in handcuffs by the SEC for being investigated for something. And we were just about to launch. We did all their marketing videos, internal, external, big trade show was just about to happen. Everything got put on hold. So about $1 million in contracts completely shut off. And I just had my second child, and I was like, okay, this is not gonna work. There's just no way I can recover from that as a small business. So I was able to thankfully place all my great people in other jobs, but I shut down and pivoted to virtual way before anybody was doing virtual. It was way before COVID. And that turned out to set me up great for two things. One was virtual, which everybody started doing later. So I got rid of all my gear, my studio space and all that. And so now I could be much more flexible with the storytelling that my clients wanted me to do. And the second thing was I was able to hire incredible people all over the world, which was terrific. But also it was a resilience story, because I just had never imagined after, getting that space and having all that gear and people, and I was so proud of that space, but it wasn't about the space. It was about the storytelling. And so that just reminded me of what I was really doing, but it was painful, but it came out on the other side. Not as bad as a car crash, but kind of felt that way at the time.
It's interesting. I feel like even recently, I've learned one of the biggest skill sets, and it's like somebody once told me, and this was, less than a year ago, every morning when you wake up, choose the hard, because nothing in this world should ever come easy. And it's like, if you're choosing the easy way, maybe it's not always the right way. And I feel like I've tried to live a more authentic, choosing the hard type of lifestyle. And I think challenging myself has been more, it's been more fulfilling than it has to just kind of skate by and barely understand something. Trust me, still many, many things I do not understand. I'm getting there still. But, and that actually brings us into our next question. I think with every decision you make, it certainly can shift, your integrity, and it can be the first thing that really lands you under pressure. How do you think you protected yours? And at the end of the day, did it cost you anything? Maybe
Wow. I'm going to start on that one, because it's bringing up some challenging memories. But, I think it's very hard. And whenever you're particularly running your own company, you're trying to keep the doors open and keep the lights on and keep the people paid and everything. But I do remember a time when I had to fire a client. And it's a very rare thing. And anybody here who has clients knows what I mean. It's not something you really want to take lightly, but it was such a bad karma scene. And he was so disrespectful to me and my team members. And I was just like, it's not worth the money. It's just not, I can't put them through that. I can't put myself through that. And it was a great gig. It was like a dream job on so many levels of storytelling and technology and a big budget and everything. And I had to just step away. And that was really hard.
So not only did you protect your integrity, you wanted to protect your team's integrity as well.
100%. Because you're only as good as your team. Everybody knows that, right? I mean, we got the team right behind us, so everybody knows about that. Can't be a coach with no team.
Yeah. Oh. What about you, Nikki?
I guess when it comes to integrity, I guess I'll speak from the perspective of an independent content creator where you are your own brand. You're putting yourself out there, and sometimes not all brands align with you, or sometimes what I truly believe in, my moral, my values, my ethics doesn't align with bigger brands. And you have to ask yourself that question. Yeah, they're offering me 5 figures to do this, but I don't align with how you do certain things. And it is a question at the end of the day that it's going to be you and that brand. It's your choice. Because it's so easy. It's so hard to build your reputation, and you can lose it in a day. And so I think for me, what really happened was, even during the time when I was in my accident, I lost out on brand deals because I just couldn't show up, obviously. But working with the brands that didn't allow me that grace, because I also, when I do talk about it, I try not to say it's like this big thing. And so sometimes maybe I come off a little bit more stronger or more capable than I'm able to. But I've had to say no to a couple of brand deals, but it also kind of showed me who my people are and who my people aren't, which made it easier for me to say no to certain brand deals, because I'm like, at the end of the day, we're all human. For me, like, the bottom line is integrity, and you cannot buy my voice, which a lot of companies are doing now. You see the huge influx of the creator economy, and that it's a $1 billion industry. It's turning that, like, here's some money, dance monkey dance kind of vibe into, like, no, I'm a person, I'm a human being. At the end of the day, what I post on my page is what I believe, and that's something I just have to stick true with. And I will say that even though I did have to turn down some brand deals because of that, and because I stayed true to who I was, and posting the very difficult posts that I posted in the past, which I'm proud of, I'm not ashamed at all, that allowed me to get even bigger brand deals and align with bigger brands that were willing to back me up tenfold. So I would say I see a lot of, like, creators, content, just hold on to your North Star. Don't let money get in the way, because at the end of the day, when you do what you love, the money does come. So please don't alter in your authenticity just to appease a brand, because that's what they want at the moment, but it doesn't align with you.
Yes. No, absolutely. I agree. And I mean, we do it every day. Even look at Infocom, different brands are aligning each other. Look at the pitch. We wanted to bring the pitch together so that we could align the right brands together that made the most sense for Diversified. So anywhere you go, it does it. How about you, Cheryl?
Wow. Well, I learned very early on that there's black and white and gray, and people have different variances of where that gray is and how wide those shades are, if you know what I mean. And I learned very early on that really at the end of the day or in the morning, you have to wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're doing what you can to provide that integrity, that ethic, what's right and wrong for you, and not be swayed by others around you who are doing things that might not be correct or even legal. So I think that you have to stay strong to that and be aware that you have to say no. You have to say no to some things, even though it may bring you more money or more exposure or whatever it is, right? So I learned that first year in business, and everybody knows my word is my word, and that stays. That always stays.
That actually leads really nicely into a topic I'd really like to touch on. I think we all have major challenges that we face throughout our careers, and in the moment, if you could dig deep, think of one of the most honest things you can say, because I do love to always challenge people with that. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that you're facing today in your career? And do you have a plan for an upcoming pivot that you're planning, that you're like just waiting for the right moment to execute on?
Wait, that's a tough one. I'll start while everybody's thinking. I see all the thought bubbles over our heads. But I mean, a conference like this just makes me think of, like, my biggest asset is my curiosity. That's what I bring to every project, but it also is what I bring to a conference like this, because I am like a knowledge absorber, and I think we all love that about these kind of places where we can hear from other people and learn new technologies. And I think that's the biggest challenge also, because I could spend all day and all night, like, on new webinars, and I've already signed up for like 5 things I don't even know if I can attend or watch when I get back, and going to booths and learning about new gear or new tools or new strategies. So I think that's a big challenge for me personally, is like, I do have to frame out my time and like how much can I absorb, and trusting that I have team members who might have to take pieces of that. I can't do it all myself, which is my natural instinct to want to do. So for me, that's a big ongoing challenge, because we do have such a fast-moving industry.
Okay, I'm it.
Just because I looked at her, she's like, okay, it's my turn now.
Yeah, no. So I'm usually on the other side of the microphone, so this is always just a little challenging for me. But
That's right.
oh, thank you. No, but I my biggest pivot, actually, most recent pivot that is actually occurring at the moment, is I started a new company a month ago to with the force of trying to integrate the technical and planning stages of the immersive experiences that I've been working on. So in other words, start at the very beginning instead of starting at the end. And so I'm just starting that pivot, and so far it's going pretty well, and I'm very excited about it. And the most recent pivot was 2 days ago. I was wearing a hard hat in the middle of a construction site trying to mix an immersive experience. And that's always my favorite thing to do.
Are you allowed to tell them where and why and what?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I can tell you where.
It's very
why,
cool.
what.
She's so cool. She's super
So
cool.
it was at the Theodore Roosevelt new presidential library that they're building in Medora, North Dakota. And it was 2 immersive experiences. One was 23 channels, the other one was 36 channels. One was a huge room with 20-foot ceilings, 2D experience, and it was a recreation of the Battle of San Juan for Teddy Roosevelt. And the other one was a 4-wall plus floor projection with 36 speakers, and it was a recreation of Theodore Roosevelt's expedition in the Amazon. So, and that was a 12-minute immersive experience. And so I always enjoy those because I constantly pivot on those jobs, whether it's because the room's not ready, or they decided to remove the acoustical paneling, or you just never know when you walk in what you're going to get. And being a part of a team that's trying to create this storytelling for people that are going to visit for years and years and years to come is such an honor. And it also allows me to creatively and technically grow. And so, and it's a constant pivot of that type of thing. So yeah, so that's where I'm currently pivoting my company away from traditional media. I mean, I'm still doing traditional media. I have 2 docs lined up for next month, but it's just exciting because the explosion of immersive and spatial audio is allowing this to happen. So it's great.
All right. And I thought my biggest challenge was not being able to stay up past 9 o'clock in Vegas. So
I would say the biggest pivot is after 8 years of stepping away from corporate to start my own independent media company is now going back into the corporate world as a head of media production for Puget Systems. I think my biggest challenge right now is just how do I identify myself? As you can see, I don't know, when you have 2 titles, I don't know how to honor all parts of myself. So I think the biggest part is identity, is how do I want to show up when I come to events like this? Do I show up for Nikki Sun Media? Do I show up for Puget Systems? I mean, I feel like a lot of us are multi-hyphenates. I don't know, raise your hand if you're a multi-hyphenate. Yeah, that's such a normal thing now. I was doing social media when social media wasn't even a thing, but because I was the youngest in these rooms, on top of being a television producer, they're like, social media, can you run our account and do it? I'm like, this is a job. That's a 24/7 job. What do you mean I have to do 2 jobs? So I think the biggest part for me has been the challenge of my identity. But what I thought would be a challenge was not, because I was able to negotiate and advocate for myself. And after advocating for 8 years for myself, when you do gig to gig, you're writing your own contracts, you are doing your own scope of work. And so with all that experience, when Puget Systems asked me to come on board as a head of production, I said, do you foresee a conflict of interest with what I do? Speaking on panels, bringing members of the media and the AV industry to you, and vice versa. And it was just a breath of fresh air, because in the past I'd been a conflict of interest where I could bring my talent and my network to you, but it couldn't work the other way. And Puget Systems was like, no, if anything, that's a strength. You speaking here on stage with incredible women in AV production you don't even have to mention our name. And that was just such a beautiful freedom to feel like I can be myself and I can show up and be myself in whatever aspect. So I'm just saying, for those who are pivoting, don't be afraid of the pivot. I feel like I've pivoted so much in my life, but the North Star for me has always been like amplify marginalized voices in front and behind the camera, as long as I'm working with partners and working with folks who allow me to be my creative self and allow me to bring all parts of my identity into the job, and they don't see it as a conflict of interest. That's a pretty cool win for me. So my next thing right now that I'm working on is, before I got in the accident, I was looking into expanding into like an external studio, set it up with PTZ optic cameras so I can remote video production, and also bring my network in where I get to hire women, creators of color, behind the scenes, give them the opportunities that I never had growing up as a student in the Bay Area, to give them opportunities to like really work together. Because resources, not everybody has resources, and now that I kind of do, I just want to give back in the best way forward. So that's kind of where my pivot turned into, I feel like, my strength, and it allows me to give back.
Yeah. Sounds like Canada's doing really well. Shall we stand up and sing? I actually know the lyrics to "Oh Canada." Long story we won't go into.
You know, this panel, it definitely has a bit of a theme to it, right? Obviously, we're talking about pivots, but I think, you know, as you pivot, it also kind of leans into truly living a life, you know, without boundaries. And I think it's really important to point out, you know, even this morning I said, you know, these boundaries in our industry are kind of like these unwritten lines that we've written for ourselves. And we sit here and go, you know, can I do this or should I do this? And it's like, well, why not? Like, there are already so many, you know, bad-ass women working in this industry. It's just like, we are here already. And it's like, we just have to talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to ask you guys one last question. If you were living in a world that truly had no boundaries, no sticky floor, no ceiling, what is your next move? Anything you want. What is it? Winning the lottery doesn't count.
Really? Me? Okay. All right. I guess I'm it. Okay. All right. I definitely would be still doing what I'm doing. I love what I do, and I'm so honored and humbled to be able to do it. However, I would definitely do it in a different way. I would hire as many people as I could who need the opportunities to learn, which is all budget driven. I have no control over that really at the end of the day, except for to ask for more money, which I sometimes get and sometimes don't. But I would also, on a more personal level, I would take the opportunity to be a true digital nomad and travel the world and create, capture sounds from all over the world and create true immersive experiences in each location I go to. That would be for me like a dream come true. You get to travel with hopefully my husband, and he doesn't like to travel, but hey, and create and envisions and these immersive experiences wherever I go. It's sometimes just audio, and sometimes with picture, and that for me is my dream. So
amazing. Which one of you would like to?
Okay, I would say my dream, I feel like I'm living it right now. And thank you, Cheryl, for saying like you would do exactly what you were doing, because when you were asking that question, like, oh, well, what is my dream? I don't know what my dream is. I feel like I'm doing it every day, and every day it shifts. Like one day, there was a time in my life where I was like, oh, I want to be like the next Oprah or Ellen, and I want to be able to amplify my marginalized voices by bringing in people of Asian American descent, and that we're not a stereotype, that we do cool things too. And I wanted to do that for every single community. And then the next day I was like, well, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to direct. And I'm like, well, if I want to direct or I want to change the stories that are being told about my community, I want to be the writer and the casting director. So every day it changes, but I do feel like it's always something in media. I feel like my biggest dream still is to build a dope studio that's massive, endless, green screens, LED. I was like walking around and saying, who's going to help me build my studio? And then, yeah, I want to employ and pay it forward and provide classes, workshops, be able to provide a free space for people to use and tell their stories. I think the biggest thing for me is I realize is no matter what I do, what I've been working on is finding better ways to tell a story, because that's something that I didn't really get to tell. I was like, how do I best tell my story and help equip the next generation of storytellers to tell their story? So I think for me, no money aside, like I would love to build a studio. Everyone's invited. Everybody have a job. The budget is endless, so I can just give it back to the community to continue telling their stories.
Amazing.
Well, I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to give you 2 goals that I have, one personal and one for the industry. My personal goal right now, I'm hosting our Techquity Talk podcast, which had 72,000 downloads for the first episode. So if you don't know Techquity Talk, come find us. It's, translating online nonfiction history as an interviewer and storyteller with all these amazing women behind the scenes of every aspect, from interviewing Katie Henson, who was at Sphere, to engineers, technologists, cinematographers on Emily in Paris. We've got a whole range of great interviews and so many more stories to tell. So I want to keep telling those stories that I started out early in my career wanting to tell. And for the industry, my goal with Gals and Gear is always a line at the ladies' room at every tech conference that I go to. So that's my target.
Yeah, no, amazing. Well, I mean, obviously I wanted to have this session not only because these women on stage with me right now are, just industry rule breakers, boundary crossers. Like, I absolutely love them and I love hearing their stories, but I've been in the industry for a long time now. I feel like I'm creeping up on 16 years, and I always kind of promised myself that if I could give back to the community, I would do something like that. Here at Diversified, I really have found the support, and honestly, I've found the support within the community, and I think we've figured out a way to do that. In behind me here, you'll see a program called Women Without Boundaries. At some point, when you can scan this QR code, I definitely urge you to. This will be the 2nd year Without Boundaries runs. Last year was a bit of a test run. It kind of blew it out of the water. We ended up with 145 entries. And what we did with those entries is we asked women to kind of show us a day in the life of what it is to be a woman in this industry. Show us in behind the racks. Show us building the equipment. Show us design engineering. And what we did with those winners is we brought them to NAB New York in October. This year, we're launching something a little bit different. This program is meant for every single one of you, every single woman in the industry, whether you're in AV, media, broadcast. If you bring something to the table, you are a part of this program already. So when you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to a website. The website is open for everyone to nominate somebody. And this program only works if we talk about it and we spread the word and we kind of celebrate what we're all doing. But it has a little uniqueness to it. I've brought on 12 amazing judges and some amazing sponsors that you'll see on there once we get to it. The judges will have no idea who you are, and they will have no idea where you work. This nomination program truly is about just celebrating one simple thing, and that is what we are doing in this world and the changes we are making. If you are chosen for one of the 6 categories, once again, we will be flying those winners to NAB New York, where they will participate in some amazing vendor and client experiences in behind the scenes, and a small awards program to say thank you for being a part of this industry. At the end of the day, we're not only responsible for helping the women that are already in the industry, but also kind of cultivating that next wave of energy that is coming. We often don't know that these careers exist. I, for one, can say I had no idea these careers existed. I just kind of found somebody, they drugged me into it, and here I am, right? And it's like we kind of owe the world, a chance at these careers, and this is what this program is aimed at doing. I do have one more slide because some of these things would not be possible without all of our sponsors. As you can see behind us already, we have so many sponsors that have showed up continuously to help us put this program on. And I could not be more proud to have them a part of Women Without Boundaries. So, thank you.
Congrats. It's a great
Thank
idea.
you.